Prologue. The Secret in Charlotte's Eyes. The ballroom of the Sterling family estate was an ocean of laughter and dancing, but Dr. Henry Blackwood felt far from a part of the festivity. He had not been invited to the ball as an ordinary guest, but rather as a doctor urgently summoned. Young Charlotte Sterling, the Baron's youngest daughter, had fainted suddenly. When he finally saw her, something inside him shifted. It wasn't just her beauty that struck him, but the peculiar and vulnerable gleam in her eyes. It was a gaze that concealed a secret powerful enough to change lives, including his own. The doctor arrived at the mansion amidst an air of urgency. Charlotte was unconscious, and her mother, the Baroness, seemed on the verge of a nervous breakdown. When Charlotte awoke, her eyes met his, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. Despite the delicate situation, Charlotte had a sharp tongue and a natural charm that could disarm anyone. "Doctor, I hope your hands are as skilled as your face is serious," she quipped, drawing an involuntary laugh from Henry. Normally rigid, he realized that talking to her was like waltzing, unexpectedly effortless. After the examination, Henry recommended rest and a restricted diet. However, his mind wouldn't settle. Charlotte seemed to be hiding something, perhaps even from herself. On the carriage ride back home, Henry replayed the memory of her gaze, a mixture of pain and courage. "What are you hiding, Miss Sterling?" Days later, Henry returned to the mansion for a follow-up consultation. Charlotte insisted the appointment take place in the garden. "If we're to discuss unpleasant matters, let it at least be among the flowers," she explained. During the examination, she revealed small fragments of her past, such as her passion for playing the piano, which had been interrupted by her constant fatigue. Intrigued, Henry made a silent promise to uncover the root of her illness. Before leaving, Charlotte suggested he return not as a doctor, but as a guest for a party in a week. "That way, we can discuss my health without my mother eavesdropping," she said, winking with a mix of mischief and sweetness. Against all his professional instincts, Henry agreed. Dressed in simple yet elegant attire, Henry felt out of place among the nobles, but Charlotte's presence made him forget his hesitation. Clad in a celestial blue gown, she looked like an ethereal vision. "Dr. Blackwood, how lovely to see you without your lab coat," she teased, with a smile that hinted at something deeper. A moment of tension melted away when Charlotte invited him to dance. Henry hesitated, but accepted. They glided across the ballroom as if they were the only two people in the world. Despite the lightness of the moment, Henry noticed the weakness in her steps, which ignited his concern. "You need to take care of yourself, Charlotte," he said, to which she replied, "Perhaps I need someone to take care of me." After the dance, they slipped away to the garden. There, under the moonlight, Charlotte confessed her fear of never fulfilling her dreams due to her fragile health. Henry vowed to find a solution, even if it meant challenging the limits of the medicine of his time. Without warning, Charlotte stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. It was a fleeting but powerful moment. She pulled back with a soft laugh, saying, "I think I'm starting to like doctors." Henry was left speechless, his heart racing. Before they could say more, a servant came rushing to fetch them. Something had happened, and the pale look on Charlotte's face made Henry realize that the real troubles were only just beginning. 2 days after the ball, Henry received a letter from Charlotte. Her words were sweet, but there was something more. A request to meet away from her family's watchful eyes. At the appointed time, she awaited him in a glass conservatory, surrounded by ferns and lilies. "There's something I need to tell you," she began hesitantly. "My health isn't just a matter of chance. There's a secret my father swore to keep hidden." Charlotte revealed that her condition might be linked to an old scandal. A family-owned factory, the source of the barony's wealth, was dumping toxic substances into the surrounding area. Children born in the nearby village exhibited similar health issues. "I am the reflection of my family's greed," she confessed, her eyes brimming with tears. Henry was torn between his resolve to help Charlotte and his urge to confront the Baron. Determined to save Charlotte, Henry pored over old medical texts in search of clues. He discovered an experimental treatment involving rare herbs, but it came with risks. When Charlotte learned of the possibility, she responded with unwavering resolve. I'd rather risk truly living than spend my days watching life pass me by. Her fiery gaze made Henry realize she was far stronger than she appeared. When Henry visited the mansion to discuss the treatment, he was met by the Baron himself. With a cold demeanor, the man made it clear that he was aware of Henry's investigation and forbade him from exposing any link between the factory and Charlotte's health. "If you persist, you'll ruin your career," he threatened. Henry felt anger boiling in his veins, but knew that directly confronting the Baron could endanger Charlotte even further. Convinced that the treatment needed to take place far from the Baron's influence, Henry and Charlotte planned her escape to a nearby town where he had trusted contacts. "Do you trust me?" Henry asked, holding her hand. "With my life," Charlotte replied, her smile concealing her anxiety. The night was filled with nervous sighs and shared glances as they worked out every detail of their plan. Under the cover of darkness, Charlotte and Henry slipped away from the Sterling estate in an unassuming carriage. Every jolt of the road seemed to carry the weight of their decisions. Wrapped in a shawl, Charlotte looked at Henry. "Do you think my father will come after us?" she asked. Henry tightened his grip on the reins with determination. "Let him try. I won't let anything happen to you." The glow in her eyes reflected a mixture of fear and hope. In a small house belonging to an old friend of Henry's, they finally settled. The modest surroundings were a stark contrast to the luxury Charlotte had grown up with, yet she seemed at ease. As Henry prepared the first stage of the herbal treatment, she watched him with curiosity. "I never imagined a doctor could also be an alchemist," she teased, drawing a smile from him. Humor was her armor against fear. After days of treatment, Charlotte began to show signs of improvement. Her skin regained color, and she grew energetic enough to insist on walking through the nearby fields. Henry watched her with growing admiration. Each step she took was a shared victory. Yet, he knew the results were still uncertain. "Don't get your hopes up, Charlotte," he warned, but she replied with a gentle smile. "You've given me a chance no one else ever did. That's enough for me." Their time of peace was abruptly interrupted by the unexpected arrival of the Baron. He stormed in, furious and flanked by 2 guards. "You've gone mad, Henry, taking my daughter from her home," he roared. Before Henry could respond, Charlotte stepped forward. "Father, I chose this. For the first time, I chose something for myself." The Baron, stunned by her resolve, hesitated but didn't back down. "You're being deceived by a man who's using you to prove a point," he shot back. To protect Charlotte and ensure her recovery, Henry struck a deal with the Baron. He would hand over all the research he had conducted on her condition, ensuring it didn't implicate the family factory, in exchange for permission to continue Charlotte's treatment. "This is more than medicine. It's love," he confessed to her that night. Her eyes filled with tears, but she accepted his sacrifice. The next morning, the Baron departed, leaving the 2 in peace, for now. Months later, Charlotte had made a full recovery. She and Henry had relocated to a small village where he opened a clinic to care for the less fortunate. During a sunset stroll, she stopped and cupped his face in her hands. "You risked everything for me, Henry. Now it's my turn." He smiled and pulled her into a kiss beneath the orange-tinted sky. The battle was far from over, but they knew that together they could face anything. Subscribe, share, leave a like!